Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to a special time of Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM Radio Network. My name is Brian Engelman. I am your host, as I have been for just about the past 4 years in a row. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're going to talk with John Correia today. He runs Active Self-Protection. I saw this video online, and it really freaked me out. Yes, it's a killer clown prank gone wrong. Now, no, it's not the killer clowns that freaked me out. What freaked me out was, at the very end, a gun is pulled. They're doing this stunt, and it's not a stunt. This thing is asinine, and it's gonna get people killed. They're in a park, and they're running around, you know, with a couple actors pretending like they're hacking people with axes and chasing crowds of children, screaming off. And three of them approach this one guy who pulls out a gun. Now, I don't know if this is all staged. I don't know if the guy with the gun had a fake gun, or it was an unloaded gun, or he was in on it just like the guy that got attacked. I have no idea what I'm witnessing. However, the reason I called John, I'm like, hey man, you know, and if you go back through the archives, you can check. I did a full show with John Correia. You can check that out. It's in the archives. With Active Self-Protection, and we talked about him and his company, and what he does is he breaks down all these videos, you know, these horrible videos of attacks, and it's like, what could you have done? When could you have seen somebody? Do you have an escape plan? What do you do if you're attacked? How do you? And it's just kind of about being aware of your surroundings. And concealed carry permit holders are some of the most responsible human beings on the planet. However, if your life is threatened, that's a different story. So I'll tell you what, I'll kind of paint the picture for John. I'll bring him into the program. But real quick, make sure you check out our homepage. It's thenewamericanmedia.com, because the old American media has failed us. On the right-hand side, there are three things. One is the TNAM radio button. That's where you click play to listen live. Then underneath that is our Facebook and Twitter feed. On Facebook, you can do a search for The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. Underneath that would be our Twitter feed, and we're at American_media_. Link in with us over there, because we put out way different content than on our radio shows, on our homepage, on Twitter, on Facebook. There's just different stuff that goes out through different platforms, and we want you to be connected, because we think you're going to like what we're doing. And finally, definitely make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. That's YouTube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. Almost 500,000 views and a whole bunch of archived content. You know, and talking about views, that's what we're looking at here. This is 933,000 views. You know, 1,700 thumbs up, 1,400 thumbs down. Like, this is just stupid. If you're doing stuff like this for clickbait so that you can make a few bucks on advertising revenue, you know what? You're going to get people killed. You're going to ruin many, many, many lives over... This thing just made me mad. So, I'll tell you what. With no further ado, let's get John into the program. Whoa. Hold on. There we go. Whoop, hold on. Now, hold on. I had it all queued up. See, there we go. Let's try it. There we go. I love running the board op while I'm also doing the show. Fun.
This is John.
John, this is Brian with the New American Media and Agree to Disagree. You are live on the air, sir. How are you doing today?
Brian, I'm awesome, man. How are you doing?
You know, I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. You are a very positive cat, aren't you?
Hey, man, every day's a holiday and every meal's a feast.
I'll tell you what, since we did our first show and we connect with you on Facebook, you are a fun guy to follow on Facebook. You're an interesting feller. Interesting feller.
Well, you know, man, life's cool. Why not be positive about it, right?
Yeah, and for the people that maybe are hearing you for the first time, if you could just maybe run down kind of where you're coming from, what you're up to, the best way to stay connected with Active Self-Protection. Just give them the introduction, if you would, John.
Well, Active Self-Protection is a self-defense and firearms training company. We're based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and we began with just doing self-defense teaching, empty-handed as well as armed. But really, our social media presence has really expanded. So Facebook's the best way to get a hold of us right now. It's facebook.com/active self-protection, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/active self-protection. And we're expanding YouTube as well. And really what our specialty is now, what we're known for, is we take real-life self-defense encounters and we break them down for people. So if you go on our Facebook page, we have about 400 videos right now of real-life self-defense encounters. So armed robberies, muggings, home invasions, real-life ones that are caught on CCTV, and we break them down for the lessons that we can learn so that when we go to train, whether that's training with handguns or martial arts, whatever, then we do so in realistic ways, and we find the principles there that will help us in real fights that might happen.
Now, okay, speaking of real fights, I brought you in to talk about this prank thing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I watched this thing and I instantly went, "Oh my God, I got to talk to John. I got to get his thoughts on this." But before I do, you just reminded me something I didn't plan on talking about. Jade Helm 15. You're in Phoenix. I'm in Los Angeles. I guess I'm in an insurgent pocket according to the U.S. government. And this is a military drill going on through Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and California and whatnot. Have you been following this thing at all? Because it's set to take place, I think, July through September, something like that. And it really, I don't like this at all. I get that training is needed, but I don't know. I'm just wondering if this is on your radar at all, Jade Helm.
You know, I mean, I just barely heard about it, frankly. I haven't paid too much of attention to it. I got a couple friends who are law enforcement, local and as well as feds. And, you know, they mentioned it to me. I'm going to reserve judgment until I get to really kind of take a look at it. But, I mean, I get that they need to train in realistic environments. In fact, I always recommend that. So I'm okay with that. But, you know, of course, we want to do everything the right way.
Yeah, and it's just the concern that many people have that you know, with if you donate to certain people, or if you talk about the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, or you're a returning veteran, you could be a domestic terrorist and you're the #1 potential bad guy. You know, like our own Department of Homeland Security is now turning its sights inward, and you know, Edward Snowden has told us about our domestic spying programs. It just seems like we the people, we the good people, are being looked at as the bad guys in the crosshairs, and it's not one thing, John. It's probably about 300 things all put together. Yeah. It's not just Jade Helm. It's you know, all the DHS stockpiles of ammunition to suck them off the shelves, the legislation, the spy. It's all kind of building into something. So I'll tell you what, we'll leave that right there where it is right now, and maybe, you know, in the next month or two as this starts kicking off, I'll do some more looking around into this. Maybe you could as well, and we could regroup on that later. But I know Phoenix and Los Angeles, we're right in the middle of it, so we might as well know as much as we can, if there's anything to know. But
well, you Californians are in trouble, but remember, us Arizonans are a bit of a different breed.
Yeah, y'all are. I would feel much more comfortable around a Texan or a New Mexican or a Arizonian or Arizonan.
Arizonans.
Arizonan?
Arizonan.
Neither of those sound right. Arizonan.
Well, there you go.
All right, well, fair enough. John, I didn't bring you in to talk about Jade Helm. We will talk about that in the future. But this is a prank. I kind of briefly set it up with the audience in the beginning, but I'll just give you the rundown here and play a brief clip of it. Killer clown almost got shot. This is a prank where they're just trying to freak people out in clown costumes and covered in fake blood, you know, meant to be realistic, and they're wielding axes. Let me just play this, just a clip for this. So there's onlookers, there's people walking past, and there's a group of 3 people attacking this guy on the ground. And you kind of just cut into these different angles, showing people walking around, some people making a phone call, or maybe just being oblivious. Just trying. Now he's going after a big group of people. Chased a group of about 20 people. Kids and grandparents, and people have no idea what's going on. They think they're under an active attack. And here's a guy. Pulls out his gun.
Please, it's just a prank, we got cameras right away, it's just a prank.
So there were 3 people around him. He pulled out his firearm, and they all took off their masks and put their hands out like, no, it's just a prank, just a prank.
Come on, bro, don't shoot.
So anyway, and then this guy puts his gun away, and then he walks away. Now, I don't know exactly. Obviously, there's a prank, and the person that was getting attacked was in on it. So there's three of them, and the person that was getting attacked. I have no idea if the concealed carry permit holder is permitted to be damned. So we all have a right to self-defense. The guy that defended himself from what he felt was an active threat, he could have been in on it too. I don't know. But it got me thinking, holy crap. These are things when everyone's going for, a few million clicks on YouTube so they can make a few bucks and become, punk stars. This is something people could actually run into, and there are huge hazards for a concealed carry permit holder to be aware of that I had never considered in my entire lifetime until this. So I want to open the floor to you and take it wherever you will, sir.
Well, I mean, obviously, these guys do these kind of pranks. They don't do them in places like Texas or New Mexico or Arizona. You're not going to do that in Wyoming, where you might very well run into a concealed carry holder.
Yeah.
They're going to do these in Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York City, where they're very unlikely to face this kind of resistance. But eventually somebody's going to get shot doing these. And you're right, they do them for YouTube fame, and they do them because they get clicks, and clicks make them a few dollars. And, I mean, obviously they're utterly irresponsible. Eventually, somebody's going to do that in a way that the concealed carry holder is going to pull his gun, and he's not going to wait to hear that, oh, it's a prank, it's a prank, it's a prank, until he puts three in the guy that's the most immediately threatening to him. And then it's, all fun and games at that point. And the thing that frustrates me the most about that is that, you ask the question, legally speaking, the standard is in almost every jurisdiction, a reasonable person. Would a reasonable person do what you did in that situation? And if you felt like you were potentially going to be the subject of grievous bodily harm or death, you can defend yourself with deadly force. And so, okay, fine, he's legally justified. The DA doesn't charge him or whatever, but that poor guy now has to deal with the rest of his life. I shot and killed a man over a prank.
Yeah.
And, there's thousands of dollars in legal fees and all that stuff, and all for some stupid kids to get some YouTube fame. I just think it's utterly irresponsible, and, it's going to take somebody getting killed before people realize, hey, this is really stupid and we shouldn't do this.
Well, I mean, what does it say for gun rights that these things are not happening in places like Phoenix or Houston? I'm sorry, Houston's a huge city. So is Phoenix. I digress. But pick a state. I mean, this at the very end of this video, you see the NYPD pulling through, and I don't know under what context they rolled through the park. In New York, it's almost impossible to get concealed carry permits. So then, what does it say that some states don't allow self-defense and some do, but you will see these pranks in the heavily metro areas where they don't think someone's going to whip out a gun? Doesn't that speak to the exact same mentality that the criminals are going to have as well?
Oh, it's absolutely true. I mean, obviously they tend to do that where they can, the pranks are funny, quote unquote, because they incite terror in people, because they can make people, run away and flee in terror. Ha ha, isn't that funny? I mean, it's not going to be funny when somebody falls and cracks their skull and ends up in the hospital running away from one of these things either. And there's multiple ways. I mean, I posted one on our Facebook page the other day that wasn't a, killer clowns, but it was, they joked that it was a Tinder date that this woman set up with these three different guys, and then her supposed boyfriend came home, and in one clip, the victim of the prank had a gun pulled on him. And it wasn't a real gun, but it's not any less serious, and it could have been a serious situation.
Well, you mean so one guy is on Tinder and he's like, hey, you're cute, what are you doing? They go grab a drink and they hit it off, they go back to her place, and then somebody busts through the door and he's like, what the hell's going on? You're saying the dude that's in bed with the chick pulls out a gun on the guy in the door?
No, I'm saying the dude who busted in, what the heck are you doing in my girl's house, has got a gun, and it's a fake gun because he's in on the prank, but hey, what are you doing? I'm going to shoot you. And again, this could lead to somebody having a heart attack, somebody getting hurt jumping out a window, stupidity like that. So, I mean, what does it mean? Obviously, I mean, I tell people all the time, okay, as a self-defender, as somebody who teaches self-defense, you got to stand that reasonable person, or and we always talk about the triad of can you shoot, must you shoot? So, we talk about ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. Does that person have the ability to do you great bodily harm? Did they have the opportunity to do you great bodily harm? Are you in jeopardy of great bodily harm? And you got to make sure of your target. So,
in a crowded park, on top of it, I'm sorry.
It's dark. It's dark. Things are happening quickly. You don't have time like you might on a range or whatever to set up and think about, you're just out for a stroll. And that just puts an incredible burden on the person that carries a firearm. But, I mean, obviously they don't do these in places where people aren't ready for that kind of thing. You know what I mean? They do these in places where people are not ready for that. And most people, quite frankly, aren't. They're not paying attention. They're not capable of protecting themselves. They walk right up on this stuff. So, I mean, and this is why we teach in self-protection, we talk about being aware of your surroundings and knowing what's coming. Because if I see from 30 feet away, I see, something crazy going on, I'm not going to walk up on it. I'm going to stay away from it if I possibly could. But unfortunately, people don't do that, and so that's why these kind of things happen.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it as they triangulated. I had a situation in Los Angeles where a group of pit bulls got loose in the neighborhood, and they ripped the throat out of my neighbor's dog and tore at its entrails, killed it in my front yard. And as I was out there trying to help, she's screaming, an elderly neighbor screaming and crying, and the dog's laying dying, and I ran out to help, and I had flip-flops in my phone. I was calling the police. Like, I had nothing on me. I ran. It was just an instinct. It was stupid. And then cut to the chase, like a little bit later after I called, I'm like, man, we need some help out here. Call animal control, get a police officer, whatever. The 3 dogs triangulated on me. They were down the street. They came over. They crossed. It freaked out my neighbor. We were on the walkway over at her building, and we froze. One of them came up, and then the other 2 flanked him. They were hunting. They were actively hunting. I was triangulated. We were frozen. Yeah. All I could do was throw my phone at the face of this dog. That's all I could have done. I had nothing on me. And luckily, somebody in the street kind of gave a to distract him, or maybe that was the owner. I have no idea, but they all turned, and I looked at her. I said, run. I said, open the door, and she ran up, opened the door, and I ran in with her. But these guys in the park, there were 3 of them triangulated on the guy that pulled out the gun. And of course, if you don't have to shoot, like you said, can you shoot, must you shoot, there could have been somebody right behind him. Yep. I don't know how anybody could reasonably expect him to not shoot. I'm glad it didn't happen, if this is in fact real, but the point remains, when you're in a situation, you get your tunnel vision on your most immediate threat, but that doesn't mean someone's not behind your back with a baseball bat, right?
Well, we talk about it all the time. You can't get so focused on what's in front of you. You got to deal with that threat immediately, but then you got to break out of the tunnel vision as well and see what else is going around. And most trainers, when you are doing firearms training, will tell you immediately after dealing with whatever threat is in front of you, you scan and assess, which sometimes gets done effectively and sometimes doesn't, but you certainly got to look around you and see what else is going on. So then that way, if there are any additionals, like being triangulated, like somebody behind you. Now, the reality is, if you end up using your firearm to shoot someone, and it's not people who are highly trained, I mean, okay, so not your garden variety, mugger or whatever. I mean, we'd be talking serious training here. But once you shoot the first one, word spreads pretty fast, and they find other things to do with their day.
You don't need to be target practice with 3 moving targets. Luckily, that's a very good way to phrase it there. Make an example out of the most immediate threat, and then reassess, because chances are they don't want to dance it with that game.
Right. Chances are, if when the firearm goes off, and if it's not the presence of the gun, if they can't see the gun, not only is it seen, but it's heard. When that gun goes off and they see that, oh my goodness, this person, has the will to fight and the will to defend themselves, unless it's just overwhelming. And even, in mobs, we've seen this. Once the bullets start flying, people scatter. And
right.
So, even if unless you're dealing with a very organized group, you got a couple guys. If, God forbid, you had to use your firearm in self-defense, you put, enough shots in the first target to eliminate the threat, to stop the threat. That's always our goal. We never shoot to kill. We shoot to stop the threat. And you stop that first threat and you start looking around, and chances are good, man, the other potential threats are just scattered.
You said if there's a situation, in a mob situation, as soon as there's a shot, people scatter. If there's a situation like that and you find yourself in the middle of a melee and you're like, that'll never happen, guess what? It happens to people from time to time.
I just put a video up the other day of it happening.
Where was it at? Do you remember?
It was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
So this man, Memphis, Tennessee, there was a group of teenagers that just came out of their high school, and they were looking for trouble. It was a mob mentality. They went into this convenience. It was a gas station convenience store.
Right.
Lady was in there and was worried about them, and so the gentleman in line behind her walked her out to her car. They started exchanging words. Next thing you know, about 25 kids, high school kids, jumped this guy, beat him pretty good. He had his child in his car. They almost got to him there. He did end up getting in his car.
Wait, was it? Hold on. Was that the one where the guy walked the woman out because the woman was concerned for her safety? It was a white woman. It was a group of black people in the mob, and then the guy that walked the white woman out was black, and then he got attacked because they didn't like that he was helping the white woman. Then they attacked him and almost killed him, or like feet from his car. That was the same story?
Yeah, that's that
okay.
Story.
I did see that.
I mean, he had a gun in the car.
Yeah, great place to have it. Like, I love all this legislation. It says you can have a gun, but it has to be locked up in a safe. Well, great. I'll have a car. Just take the tires off of it and put it in the garage, in the shop too.
Right.
No thanks.
So those kind of mob attacks do happen.
And so if there's a mob situation, now this got me thinking, is it better to shoot somebody to stop the most immediate person in their threat, to shoot into the ground, or to shoot into the air? Or is there a fourth option I haven't considered if you're in a mob attack?
I never, ever, ever, ever recommend warning shots because of the potential for collateral damage, for hurting an innocent bystander. So if it's serious enough to discharge your firearm, then it's serious enough to discharge it with intent. So I never recommend a warning shot, whether in the ground or in the air, certainly not in the air. I don't recommend it in the ground either. If it's serious enough to draw your gun and use it, it's serious enough to use it with intent. So there's also been, now again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not trying to give anybody legal advice, and everybody's jurisdiction is different, okay?
Right.
But there is case law that says that every person in a mob is as culpable before the law as the people doing the worst of the mob.
Huh.
And so if I'm in the situation where I am, as a reasonable person, in fear of my life, and I think certainly, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 on 1, even their fists are a deadly force.
Of course, yeah.
At that point, for sure. I personally would not have a problem if I had to get into that kind of a situation with using my firearm to defend my life. And again, usually, you've got to know then at that kind of a distance, you don't have the square range to punch that gun out and, use it like you were taught in your first CCW class or basic pistol class. You better know how to use that gun in a close quarters environment, and that takes more training. But again,
you mean with the gun up? You mean like with the gun up against your body, as opposed to like a standard 2-point stance and
right?
Okay, close. Yeah, I guess I haven't really practiced too. My brother, he's an NRA instructor. He took some courses and he gives some courses now, and he had me doing a lot of stuff. And some of it was firing from places where I don't have the sight lined up accurately, and that is a totally different story. Yeah, I mean that's a good point too.
And firing with it, right up against your body, and with people pummeling you, and your support hand defending yourself, and then using that effectively. And again, first couple shots are the key ones. You put one in the immediate threat, and usually, when one person gets shot, nobody is standing in line to be second.
So then, as we wrap this up here, John, and I said, I talked with you offline briefly, but seeing all of these situations, Walter Scott caught on camera where the cop, shot and killed him, shot 8 times, hit him 5 times, and killed him in the back as he was running away. The fact that we don't have body cam footage from Ferguson, we don't have it with Trayvon, we do have some of it with Eric Garner. There are all these situations that have occurred. It seems like over the past year and a half, 2 years, where there are so many of these police shootings, and I think there are lessons to take away. Regardless, I think every situation can be broken down from the person that was shot to the person that did the shooting. What was right? What was wrong? What can we all learn from this? I think the number one lesson I've learned, without picking sides in any of these cases, is don't fight the police. You get arrested, then you have your day in court and you sort it out. I don't usually see a lot of the fighting and running from police working out well. I think that's a great lesson that we all need to remember. You can hate the cops as much as you want, but if you fight them, good luck. It's not a smart bet. It's not a wise bet. So I guess
well, and even if you're right to fight them, and I'm not saying you are. I'm pro law enforcement. I believe that the vast majority of cops are good people doing a very difficult job. And I know plenty of police officers, and again, I support them. But even there are bad apples in there, every bunch. And even if you would have been right to fight them, just let your lawyer fight them for you instead. And
right.
Listen, here in the States, we do still have a constitution. You do still get your due process, and even if you say, well, I was right to do what I did, well, if that ends up with you getting shot by the cops and killed, that does not do you any good. Your moral victory doesn't help you.
Yeah, and on top of that, there have been some cases, you've seen where there's like a raid at 2, 3 in the morning, and they throw a flashbang grenade into a baby's crib. There have been cases where someone hears someone breaking in through the front door, they grab their rifle, and they shoot and kill a couple of officers, and they're actually acquitted because they reasonably felt like their life was, that they thought there were robbers at the door. They didn't announce themselves, and they thought they defended themselves. And it gets very tricky when you get into the nuances and all the intricacies of all these cases. So, and a lot of people, there's a belief bias. I was kind of researching this the other day, where it's like people have a tendency to see what they expect to see. So if you have a white person and a black person viewing a situation, they may expect to see something based on their personal experiences, whether that's true or not, and it impacts what we do there. But I want to ask you as we go, what advice we have for the pranksters and for the people that might confront this. Just a final piece of information out the door. But I was wondering now if you did have any thoughts on that Walter Scott shooting, the man that was shot in the back by the police officer. If you happen to see that one.
Well, I mean, I did see it, of course, and he was charged. So we're going to see what the court says. But from the video that I've seen, man, I don't really have any way to defend that one. I'm as pro law enforcement as anybody I know, but I certainly didn't see a reason that one had to end the way that it did. And I mean, I'm going to let the court do their thing, and I'll let the jurors decide innocence or guilt. But boy, I don't see anything that I can defend or stand behind in that. And as much as I'm pro law enforcement, I am absolutely against police brutality, and I'm absolutely against the misuse of authority. When you put on authority, with that comes great responsibility. Oh,
absolutely. And in that case, the can you shoot, must you shoot?
Right.
He's running away. Now to be fair, I took my time on Ferguson as I gathered facts and details. I didn't rush to judgment and get fired up emotionally. Same with Trayvon Martin attacking George Zimmerman and George Zimmerman pursuing, and I had to weigh all that, and I took my time. And as you piece this thing together with Walter Scott, and you see the stop. He gets out of his car the first time. He tells him, no, you get back in your car. Then he gets out again and runs. So the cop is already agitated, going, this guy might flee, this guy might shoot me. Now he's back in the car, now he's out, and now he goes. Then there's, at the beginning of that handheld video, there's some sort of fight, there's some sort of altercation. The taser was out. I think he was tased, or it may have been taken from him and shot on the cop. Whatever the case is, let's get all the facts. But you just cut down to the very end of that. A person running away, not turning. He reached for his waistband. I felt my life was in it. He reached for my gun. No. He's very far away, running the opposite direction. Did he have to shoot? I cannot think of a situation where I can justify that particular part of it, other than this guy had him suspicious from minute one when he got out of his car, and then he took off, and then he wrestled with him, and then he kept going. But that's no excuse to shoot. It's just unfortunate.
Well,
I don't want to see these ever.
No, and I believe in a system. I don't think the American legal system is perfect, but I do think it's the best there is. And when a jury of their peers looks at that, I know that their attorney is going to do a great job of presenting every shred of evidence and trying to present a good case. And what the hold on one sec. What the what the jury decides, I'm going to trust, because they saw the information firsthand. They saw every bit, and I haven't seen every bit. I've seen what the media has presented.
Right.
And so I'm going to let them do their thing. And I believe that, at the end of the day, you can agree or disagree with George Zimmerman, but I think that, the jury looked at what they looked at. And you can agree or disagree with, Ferguson, but the jury looked at information. And so I'm going to let that happen here as well.
Should there be trials for all police killings, in your opinion? Some people have suggested that.
I mean, I think the jury, the grand jury process works. I think that, there are plenty of times. That's just like, I don't think that every civilian, every person, please forgive me, I believe that law enforcement officers are civilians. But, every non-law enforcement killing doesn't need a trial. So, if we look at the evidence presented in the case and it looks to all reasonable person, like the actions were reasonable, then I don't think we need a trial for that. That's needlessly burdening the entire system.
Yeah, I just, some of these cases where someone uses it clearly in self-defense, and the question is even raised. Well, they're determining whether there'll be a trial or like, for what? You know, they were attacked and they killed the guy that attacked him. Like, it's simple. Like, a bad guy does bad stuff. They're killed by a good guy. It's over. You know, that's... Well,
and that's, in many places, that's how it happens. You know, I have a friend here in Phoenix, in fact, who had a home invasion and ended up using a rifle and defended his family and ended up taking a man's life because he broke into his home. And you know, I mean, they sat on it, and I think the DA looked at it for about, I don't know, 2.5 weeks or something like that, and came back and sent him a letter that said, hey, man, we looked at this footage, and we looked at, not footage, but, you know, we looked at all the evidence, and you were almost certainly acting in self-defense, and so we're not going to pursue any charges, and here's your rifle back, and have a nice day, you know?
Yeah, and it's weird that the victim is then disarmed. We have to take your gun. Well, I'm obviously a target. Now I'm defenseless, or, you know, you hope you have another one, or... I don't know. It gets really complicated, and we'll save some of these for another day. Body cameras for all cops, do you think that's something that's good? Body cameras?
You want to pay for them? I mean, you know, everything costs money, and everybody's screaming about how much taxes we got to pay.
I'm all right with paying for them. Let's cut welfare benefits to lazy deadbeats, and let's make sure that our police are accountable.
I'm for it in the sense that I think it protects both good cops and it protects the public against bad cops.
Yeah.
I believe that personally. You know, I mean, I don't. You know, you say, well, I want a body cam that can never be turned off or whatever. Man, do you really want somebody taking video of you while you're going to the bathroom?
Well, here's my reaction to that, and I had a talk with it the other day. I think on my show last week, and I said, okay, I hear you. I hear you. No, I don't need to see someone taking a dump, but here's what it should be. All of the footage, it cannot be turned off ever, because there are already cases now in these trial programs where, oh, so-and-so was beaten unconscious and is paralyzed, or so-and-so was shot and killed, but his camera malfunctioned right for that. But it was fine all the rest of the day. Give me a break. My thing is this. If all of the footage, it goes to a vault, it goes to a place where the data is stored for 30 days, and if there's a dispute with something, that footage is then used, and you cut out the bathroom breaks and the conversations with your wife. The public does not have access to that until, you know, some sort of escrow account. Like, that footage is held in a vault. Nobody could turn it off. You're not going to release, you know, taking a dump footage on CNN. But the fact that if people want to turn them off, they can, I think that is a terrible idea, personally.
Well, all right, I'm okay with us having a difference of opinion.
Fair enough. So then our final piece of advice. Final piece of advice to the pranksters and to the concealed carry holders that might feel like there's a threat and they don't know if they have another half second. What would you say first to the pranksters?
Well, the pranksters, I would say I would never do a prank that puts anybody in any feigned harm, because if you put somebody in a place where they reasonably feel like their life is in danger, you could cause them great harm and you could cause yourself great harm. If you want to play jokes and all that stuff, okay, fine, I get it that people find that humorous, but don't do it when you're putting people in peril.
I echo that. This video, and it's a few months old, I was looking at it, it shocked me, because I like to think that I consider a lot of different angles, a lot of different possibilities. I'm just kind of constantly thinking about the what ifs. I never really considered a killer clown prank where I thought I was going to get axed by 3 people in the middle of a park. I never considered that, so it floored me, and I had to bring you in because give your advice to the concealed carry permit holder that now feels like they are in the middle of something where they could be killed, and there's a slight possibility that it could be a prank, and you don't want to wait so long that you're dead when it's real. What do you say to these people now?
Well, I would say 2 things. Number one, I would say awareness is your best friend. So knowing what's going on around you and having the foresight to not have your face buried in your phone and to not walk up on stuff, but to see what's going on more than 5 or 10 feet in front of you is incredibly important. Because if I saw 3 guys that are, you know, clowns or whatever that are 30 feet away or something that's out of place, I'm not going to go into it. If for some reason, you know, that doesn't happen, you came around a corner or whatever, you can't always be, you know, tactically super awesome aware, and you come across it, well, I mean, when you draw a firearm, it's a serious thing. And if you have the time and space, issuing verbal commands is not a bad thing. issuing verbal commands for somebody to stay away from you, and seeing what happens with that for a split second, if you have that time, could save you the internal struggle, the emotional cost, the spiritual cost, the social cost of using a firearm. Now, if you were justified to use it because, reasonably you were in fear for your life or the safety of your family, well, then that's on them. That's on the pranksters, not on you. But if you can use your voice as the firearm comes out to issue commands to keep yourself safe, and most firearms uses don't involve the actual discharge of the firearm.
Oh, okay.
Well, then do so.
Yeah, and it is very different if you come on a situation where it looks like someone is brandishing a baseball bat, a machete, an axe, a knife, versus something that can travel long distances and get you at your distance, such as a gun. That's a very different scenario. And when if you turn the corner and you witness what you think is an attack where someone is getting killed. We just saw that footage of the rape in Spring Break where people are just recording it on their camera, and this woman's been drugged and she's getting gang raped on the beach in Florida, and everybody just sat there. Where is the obligation for someone to jump in? Say a concealed carry permit comes over, he's walking through and he sees what appears to be an axe attack on somebody who crumples to the ground, just like you saw gang rape in Florida on the beach. What is the responsibility to is there a responsibility to help that situation?
Well, I always say that everybody, there are differences based on different jurisdictions, but from a legal perspective, if you're not a sworn law enforcement officer, you don't have the legal obligation to defend someone else. You have the ability to defend yourself, your tribe, your loved ones, but you don't have the moral obligation, or the legal obligation at least, to defend anyone else. They have the obligation to defend themselves. Now, from a moral perspective, I really feel like that depends upon your own particular moral compass, and my spiritual beliefs wouldn't allow me to stand by while somebody who was, a victim, or somebody who was vulnerable was victimized by people. I just couldn't do that. But you have to decide that for yourself, and that's one where I tell people, listen, you better work on that in advance. You better know in advance what you're willing to do and how big your flock is. The gun community likes to talk about sheepdogs a lot. I prefer the concept of a shepherd personally, but you got to decide how big your flock is. Your flock may just be you, your spouse, and your children. Okay, then that's great. And if you see something, get out of there and call 911. Okay, fine. You may say, no, I'm going to step in there and beat somebody up who's trying to hurt somebody. Okay, but you better be very, very careful that you know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are in advance. I think for most people, most of the time, your best bet is to make sure that you and your family are safe, to be on the phone with 911, and to be getting the authorities there as fast as possible.
And I talked with my brother about this, and, we go back and forth about open carry, conceal carry, where it's constitutional carry, where no training is required, all the different forms of self-defense. I guess, because part of me says everybody has the right to defend themselves. Just that's it. If you want to get a gun, you have a gun and you're fine. But when you really start breaking this down, there's a lot of information and training that you kind of really need to have in case one of these really weird, rare things occurs. I mean, are you in favor then of do you have a thought on that, of constitutional carry versus mandatory training?
Well, we have it here in Arizona, and it's great. I love it. It's fantastic. There's none other of your Bill of Rights do you require a permit from the government to exercise. And I just don't see that this one is. You don't have to take a class before you're able to exercise the religion of your choice. You don't have to take a permit. You don't have to get fingerprinted before you're able to speak in public and say what you will. And so I don't think that a permitting process is constitutional, and I don't think it's necessary. Now, that said, I think training is an absolute mandate, a moral imperative for everyone who is going to carry a firearm, because you better be able to use it and use it effectively in the moment, because otherwise, if you don't know how to use the gun, then really what you have is not a self-defense tool. You have a magic talisman that you hope wards away danger. And I found here in Arizona, as a trainer, as a teacher, if you look at the numbers, we went constitutional carry several years ago, and the funny part is the state of Arizona, the Arizona Department of Public Safety, really cut back on the number of people that it had employed in its concealed permits division, the people processing concealed carry permits.
Right. The
they
paper
cut those
pushers.
people back thinking that it would go away, and the backlog went through the roof because the number of permit applications didn't go down, it went up.
Wow.
And because people want to get trained, and they said, no, I want to carry. I know I can carry without a permit, but I'd rather have the permit. I'd rather have the training, and that's a good thing. So I think everybody should get trained unequivocally. I don't think that it's the government's business to regulate constitutionally protected rights.
Hey, I'll tell you what, the FCC just did a power grab on the internet, and it's like, who has the right to control who I can talk to? And you look at China censoring political dissidents. What is that? That's anybody with a differing opinion. You and I don't see eye to eye on body cameras. Do you have the right to censor the things that I write online? No, of course not. Does government, if they have more of an interest and more power? No, they don't. I mean, I do see this from all sides, and I just know when I got my first firearm that it was, okay, I'm going to get some training because I have no idea how to use this thing and it can take a life. So let's respect it. Let's really respect it and never play around with it. Never aim it at something that you don't expect to die. Never put your finger on a trigger unless you intend to pull. All of these things, just little things. It's so crucial that we get training and experience, and that's why I really like what you've been doing, John, with ASP, Cover Your ASP, Active Self-Protection.
That's right. Make sure you get the P in there.
Yeah, I know. I always have to cover your ass. I try to over-accentuate it, but yeah, and I'll tell you what, we'll bring you back on when we both have a little bit more time to do a full show again, because we enjoyed you the first time. I just kind of, there are always situations we can learn from. There is always valuable information, and like you said, think out in advance. Are you going to go try to be Batman in Gotham City and you know, invoke a good Samaritan law because you see what appears to be an attack, or are you just taking care of your own close family? These are things you have to think of in advance, and you got to be aware of your local laws. So, I think the more we can have these conversations and spread it around the universe, I think the better, and I think the more the bad guys know the good guys aren't going to allow themselves to be victims, I think we're going to have a much more polite society. So, John, once again, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. It's always good information. And one more time on our way out the door, if you could just kind of remind everybody where they can check out Active Self-Protection online and get some more info.
The biggest place you can find us is on Facebook at facebook.com/active-self-protection. That's the best place to find us. Our website is activeselfprotection.com. And our YouTube channel, you can find us at youtube/active-self-protection. You can find me on Twitter. Twitter.com/get_ASP is our Twitter handle. I'm also on Instagram, Instagram/Active Self-Protection. So you can find me on all those resources, and that's how to get me.
Excellent, John. Well, hey, man, seriously, when you do radio, you see stories, and you have phone a friends, and it's like, oh, I got to get such and such guest on. I got to call Zach to talk about basketball. He's my NBA scout guy. Oh, I saw this. Oh, I got to talk to. When I saw this thing, and I look at videos all the time, looking for stories to cover and things that we feel are important. I hadn't seen this one before, even though it was a few months old, I think from back in October of 2014, and it just floored me like a frying pan to the face, and I said, I got to get John in here to help me make sense of what I just saw and warn other concealed permit holders that there might be idiot pranksters out there that could get somebody killed. We should all be aware of it, and I'll tell you what, you did a great job. Thank you for illuminating the situation, and we will bring you back again as long as you're willing to endure more of my questioning and witty banter, my friend.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Anytime, man. Always fun to sit and talk with you, and good to have you, come our way, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. You stay safe, and I appreciate your time. That's John Correia, everybody. Check it out, Active Self-Protection. Coming up next, we're going to bring in Zach Barris. He is going to talk with us about the NBA playoffs. Are you paying attention to it? Because it's time.
It's the Unhappy Hour.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to Agree to Disagree with Brian Engelman, and this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is the newamericanmedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets, come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. Well, it doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.